Yeah, so basically today will be PPCA, the performers split, and which is also the master split. And we're going to talk about basically how are you like eligible to sort of register for that split. Um, and we're going to talk about how each person will need to register for PPCA that is eligible. And then we're going to talk about producer and vocalist negotiations and how to sort of figure out what's fair and work out if someone should be a feature or should they be an artist and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to do the same thing as last week. I'll have a little drive or Dropbox in the YouTube link where everyone can jump in and you can see like the information. Everything I'm going to show you today, like with all the links, will be there. So it's just like super easy access. So what I will do is I'm going to just use the same song we did last week, which was Night Road. We talked about the APRA splits, so if anyone wasn't too sure about that, you can go back and look at last week's YouTube video and check that out. So Colour Castle and Damon Truett Night Road. We talked about the riders and how that worked, and today we're going to talk about the master splits and where to register the master splits. So the performers on the track are Colour Castle and Damon Truett, so they're going to be registering for the master split. They're the performers. And I've just explained it basically how the splits for that track on the master worked. So this is the master split explained. So both Casper and I are Colour Castle, and we take the Colour Castle master split 50-50 each. Damon Truett is 100% of Damon Truett, kind of makes sense. So Colour Castle is a group, Damon Truett's just a single solo artist. So basically the way it worked with this track is we just went evens. So because there's two artists, but there's three people involved. So we went basically, me and Casper took 33% each, which totaled 66.6 for Colour Castle, and Damon took the 33.3% for himself. So even though Colour Castle is a group, both Casper and I actually get paid individually from PPCA. And it's really important to note, and we're going to go through and register a track to PPCA, but each person actually needs to register themselves. So if I register a track to PPCA and Casper doesn't, I can get paid and his money might go to the record label. He actually needs to also register. So it's just really important there if you are collaborating with people or if you are a group or a band, each member of that band or group actually will have to register. And then also you have to register every single version of every song. So this is a bit different from APRA where you can just register the extended or radio edit, put the source code in and you're good to go. You actually have to register the radio edit, extended edit, every single remix, including all the different edits of the remixes. So it's pretty easy actually. It's not super complicated because you'll see the form in a second, but it's just worth noting there and just putting in your notes there that every version, every person has to register. So let me just double check and see if anyone else is waiting. Cool, Callum. All right, cool. And so now what we'll do is jump back into the PPCA website. So this is what it looks like when you jump into the website. What you'll need to do first, if you haven't already, is you will need to register as an artist. And then what they'll do is they'll send you like your artist ID and all that sort of thing. So do that first. I'll have the links set up for you. And then once you've done that, you can register my tracks. And what they'll do is they'll give you, so you need to obviously do the artist detail form as mentioned. They'll give you the recording detail form. Cool. So this is just the page here and this is all you do. What we'll do is we'll register a track and we'll go through each section. So it's pretty straightforward. Registered artist name, that's just your own name, and then the group would be Colour Castle. So I do know my ID. You don't actually have to put you'll get the ID once you register. You don't necessarily need to put it in though. So what have we got here? Where are we? Title of recording. So we're going to do, I've got all my splits here. So me and Casper basically just send an email back and forth. We label all the tracks that need to be registered. We have the catalog numbers ready and just whether or not there's any other versions. So for example, this track 2 for 500, I've got the splits there. It's 50-50 each. So if we go ahead and just copy the name into there, and then I've also got the catalog here. So if you don't know the catalog number, obviously this is with my label. I know the catalog number. I can just look at my metadata. If you actually don't know what the catalog number for your tune is and it's released, all you need to do is jump onto TrackSource or Beatport. And if you just like take a look at any of the songs on here, for example, I've got Buried King, Some Kind of Magic. All right, let's click on the release. And then you've got the actual catalog number right here. So that's a really easy way. It saves you emailing and waiting for a reply off a record label. You can just go online, and that's obviously pending the track's already been released. So that's the catalog number there. Super easy to find. Save yourself a bit of time there. All right, cool. So we've got, I'll check my artist ID in later. I've got it somewhere. So it's a single. You've found the catalog number, inserted the catalog number there. That's an important one. This is all digital. Pretty obvious, like unless you're releasing on vinyl and stuff, I think most of us are probably digital. There's no other formats. And now this is the section. So this is an exclusive agreement with the record label. So now I can put in, whoops, I'm going to put the track name in. And I'm going to put my share in of 50%. There is a section down the bottom. So that's just if there's like over 15 different mixes, you can add in more metadata. You just click yes, you have read it. Name of submitted person submitting, it's myself. And now I can put in here Casper Tromp and his email address. And it will notify him now that he has to go and register that. It doesn't actually register for him though. At least not at the start. We have found that after like probably like 45 different registrations, they do catch on to it. And for us, I'm pretty sure that they do register it on his behalf. But at the start, you want to make sure every single artist and every single group member is registering, because this is the money that you're going to get for your tracks. The way PPCA pays is once a year. So you receive a check in the mail around Christmas time, just after Christmas. So you do also need to make sure when you do register, you have the correct address and all that sort of thing. You don't want that going to the wrong address. So this is a really, really simple one. Now, for example, if this track had, say, remixes and edits, I would put in the track name and I'd put in radio edit. I'd put in the track name and Dimitri Z remix, and so on and so forth. This track doesn't have any additional, it doesn't even have a radio edit, it's just an extended one. So it's really nice and simple, but you've got 15 different slots to put in every single version there. So look, it's super, super simple. I'm going to submit that one. And what it will do is, so what I usually do is have an email with all of the tracks that need to be registered, and I do them all in one day. And what PPCA will do is they'll send you a confirmation email, once it's all registered. And if any of the tracks that you have registered, the label hasn't registered, it will also notify you and let you know that the label hasn't done it on their end. And it's really, really important that you are signing records to labels that are registering PPCA, because if they don't register, you can't get paid. So this is why it's really important to work with reputable labels, people that are working with good distributors and people that know all of the back end of this stuff. Because funny story, myself and Pantheon, this is going back probably 5 or 6 years now, signed a record to an Adelaide label, and that track got to number 7 on the club charts. And I didn't even know any of this back then, really. I knew I had to do this, I didn't really know how. And turns out the label never registered the track to PPCA. It went into the club charts, it was top 10. We never got paid. We lost probably about $6,000 each. So don't do what I did. You want to make sure you're going to get the money for your tracks. There's a lot of work goes into getting stuff charted. You pay a lot of money for promo. So you need to make sure all of this stuff is sorted. And I'm going to do next week basically a quick distribution talk, and we're going to talk about how to get your songs onto Beatport, and actually we'll run through how labels need to register this stuff as well. It's super simple. If you do have a label, or if you are pushing a label to register this sort of stuff, I'm happy to show them how, because at the end of the day, it doesn't take a lot of time. All right, cool. So that's pretty basic. That's PPCA sorted. All those links will be in a folder. And now the next thing I wanted to chat about is a vocalist. So you've got a vocalist. You've sent them an instrumental. They've come back with a really good vocal, and then you get put onto their manager, who hits you up, and the manager basically says, you know, we want $1,000, €1,000 fee, and what are you thinking for splits? You're going to be like, whoa, shit, that's a lot of money. So you're going to want to know what you're getting for the money. Is the vocalist going to use a vocal engineer? Are the vocals going to come wet? Are you going to get them separated in stems? Are they going to be a dry version? Are they going to be tuned? These are all the things that you kind of need to ask the vocalist. And then in regards to offering splits, if someone was asking me for like say a $500 fee, I personally would offer them, say, maybe 50% in the APRA writing fee. And then maybe if they're getting $500, I'd say, look, do you want to not feature and take the money as a buyout? So what that would mean is the vocalist would write the vocal, record the vocal, send it to you in all those formats, and then they might not actually put their name on it, which means you keep the entire master split. So there's a whole avenue of revenue there that you gain. So you're losing the $500 as the buyout, but you might be potentially gaining quite a lot more down the track. And this is something that the vocalist obviously has to agree to too. A lot of vocalists will want to feature, and in that case, then I think a smaller fee, maybe just for the studio time, the vocal engineer, is granted, but a massive buyout or a massive fee probably is asking a little bit too much. And then also, like with Night Road, like we spoke about last week, Damon didn't write that. There were different writers. He just performed it. And Damon's a legend. Like, he was happy enough just to sing over that and take a split. He just took the master split. I think we paid for the studio time, and that worked out really well for us. But we've had other vocalists, like on Color Castle Love Addict. The vocalist on that track was Yolanda Quarterly, who she did Won't Look Back, Duke Dumont. So that's quite a big tune. I think she was like, she's quite a big artist now. She tours as like indie rock. And so we got right before, like a week before the release, and then she decided she didn't want to have her name on it because she didn't want to be featured on house music anymore. That was just her personal decision. So she came back and her management said, we want £1,000 to buy her out. I think we ended up negotiating it to being a bit more reasonable at about $1,000 Australian. And that way, Color Castle remained the only performer on Love Addict. We collected the entire master split. She still got her writer's split of 50%, which would be paid through APRA. So I guess now we can, if anyone has any questions, just go forth, unmute yourself and fire away. Has anyone got any tracks coming out with any vocalists that kind of like they haven't really known how to work the splits out? Or I know the Malou guys, you've done a bit with Dom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we pay Dom a fee to sing, and then we also give him a split as well. I don't know if he wants me to say anything. I don't know. I don't want to do anything wrong, but yeah, we do both of those. So we we didn't know what was right or wrong, but seemed fair, and Dom's a nice guy, so we trust him.
Yeah, that's great. So like Dom's kind of vibe and the way he writes music is like a bit more like kind of pop, and you guys are house. So I guess it doesn't really make a lot of sense for him to have his name attached to your project. So that's fair enough. And that's like cool that you guys have made that decision. Now, one thing like Dom would need to be aware of is he cannot register to PPCA. If your name is not on that track, if you're not an artist on that track, you are not eligible to register to PPCA. So one thing a lot of vocalists do, or for example, like me and Casper are fine because we have an agreement that we just split stuff. But a lot of vocalists, what they will do is they'll create a different alias just for that style, just so they can have their name on the track, just so they can receive that split. Or another option you can do is have like a side artist agreement where, for example, Dom still wants a bit of that master split, that PPCA split. You can collect the money and then pay it onto him. And that's super common as well. It's just, I guess, you're mates with Dom, so it's not risky for him. But for a vocalist halfway across the world or Australia, they might want something a bit more guaranteed by having their name on it. And it works with session musicians and all that sort of stuff as well. Another thing we can chat about is session musicians. For example, Stay Hungry. That was a bass line played by a bass guitarist. He was happy to come in and get $300 and just play a bunch of bass lines for us. And I just looped a small part, used it for Stay Hungry, and he didn't want any writers splits. He didn't want any master splits. He was just happy to get cash for the day. And that's a really common, that's really common as well. So there's a few different kind of like circumstances, and it does get a little bit confusing about what is kind of right and wrong. But at the end of the day, it really does come down to what people are happy to have. Yeah. So that's pretty much the two main. Last week we chatted about APRA and writer splits, and then this week the master split and PPCA, and that's the two main main confusing kind of like avenues for the different writers, the different artist names, and different ways to make money. So I hope that sort of clears things up, and it all makes sense to you guys. Just flick me any messages if it doesn't. If there's just different names for everything, which I think is what confuses a lot of people. For example, the master split can be called neighboring rights, master split, performance, and then again with APRA, each country has a different association that pays them. So sometimes when one person is talking about something, it can actually be, and they're using a different terminology, it can be the exact same sort of thing. So you just need to know all the different lingo and how it applies to each of the splits.